So hello, everybody. Officially, this is Jody Franklin, and I have a question for you all. Do you have clients who have hormone issues? Do they have hot flashes? Do they have PCOS? Are they infertile? Do they have amenorrhea? Any issues that you've dealt with your clients? And if you haven't had a client yet with hormone issues, then you haven't had any clients, I don't think, because they are rampant. I myself had some hormone issues and used to have terrible hot flashes before I learned at SAFM what to do about them. And I had to say, I sailed through menopause without any problems at all. But I have Tracy Harrison here today. She's the founder and lead educator of the School of Applied Functional Medicine. She has an IQ, I think, of about 1,000. One of the smartest people I've ever met, and 3 degrees from MIT. She's a scientist by background, and she started this school to teach health coaches. She's actually a health coach herself by background. She went to health coaching school as well, and teach health coaches like us how to get breakthrough results for your clients so that, they come back to you and they tell all their friends about you, and you can build a successful, lucrative, confident, and competent practice. And I will say, on a personal note, this has been the key to the success of my practice. I am so grateful I met Tracy, and cannot believe I have to pinch myself sometimes when I see the results that I've gotten from my clients and how I've been able to build a practice. Even within my first semester of SAFM, I got a full practice just word of mouth. And I have worked with hormone clients, like, for example, one of my clients in my testimonials, she was 46 years old and was told she was infertile, and there was nothing she could do about it. And for years, they had been trying to get pregnant. Well, guess what? Within just a few months of working with me and my team, she got pregnant, and she just had a healthy baby boy at age 46. So it's incredible what's possible. I've had clients who had no period, they're amenorrheic, now they have their period again. I have had clients that have had horrible PCOS and issues like hot flashes, and I've been able to help them overcome even the most horrible hormone issues. One client had such high prolactin levels that she was literally milk was coming from her breast, even though she hadn't had kids in years. These problems like that the medical world couldn't solve for her, little old me, health coach, was able to do. So thank you so much, Tracy, for coming today. I can't wait for you to dive in, and please do list your questions below here on Facebook or in the group here. There will be a replay sent if you register for this. And one more thing before you start, Tracy, I want to let everyone know that Tracy has generously offered to give all of us a follow-on class on basically maximizing your clinical impact on thyroid dysfunction. Thyroid is such a master hormone, and you would not believe the amount of everything basically controls almost every cell in your body. And this class is phenomenal. So all you have to do is register for this class. So if you're watching the replay, I'll have our team put the link below to register for this session. So you'll get the replay sent to you. You're going to get the thyroid class. And one more thing, Tracy is giving away 5 chances to win a half-day workshop, which gives you continuing education credits if you're NBHWC. It's a advanced practitioner workshop, and it gives you CME or CE credits if you are a medical professional. And these are fantastic. They're so fun, and don't be intimidated by it. It's for beginners. It's for all levels, but you can certainly join the workshop as well. So anyway, without further ado, Tracy, tell us what we need to know about hormones.
Awesome. What a lovely introduction. Thank you so much, Jody. I'm grateful for the opportunity. I'm grateful for how you choose to show up in the world and really share and shine a bright light on the power of health coaching. I've said many times before in speaking to communities such as yours that I am so grateful for health coaching and people who courageously do this work in what is a growing, brewing industry. And it can be challenging, right, to perform this role where it's not well acknowledged yet. I really believe in our lifetime that every medical practice that is effective is going to have health coaches on staff, because we are starting to really understand more and more and more that facilitating lifestyle change is not optional. Practitioners can even, medical practitioners can have wonderful scientific insight and do fantastic case assessment and all sorts of labs and well-intended interventions. But if you don't step by step, reliably and sustainably help someone to change their lives, then it's completely illogical that their health gains, any health gains, are going to be sustainable. Of course not, because the state of our health is a reflection of the circumstances, how our unique physiology and biochemistry is responding to the environment in which we're asking it to live. And so we don't change the environment. It's illogical to expect that they're going to have any long-lasting improvement, right? A certain drug, a certain intervention, a supplement, something might be helpful in the short term, but most people are coming to us. Yes, they're looking for relief, but what they're ultimately looking for is sustainable vitality. And that really requires exceptional skills in facilitating lifestyle change. And coaches are trained in how to do that. It is not something you learn on the side. It's actually an expertise area of yours. It's so important that we teach fundamentals of coaching to everyone at the School of Applied Functional Medicine. In a typical class, about maybe 20 to 25% of our students are non-medical practitioners. And of course, the lion's share of those are people who have health coaching training and certification. So we're delighted to include many coaches in our student body. And I love creating a hierarchy-free student community where coaches have so much to teach other practitioners, and they have so much to learn from one another, and for that cross-modality sharing. So I just want to start today with a very sincere word of gratitude for all of you and what you're doing, because you are the wave of the future. And those of you who are doing this work now are the leaders in this movement. What you do, how you
Yep, I think Tracy's stuck, I think. I'm afraid. Can anybody hear her, or did she freeze? I think she froze. So I'll just do a gallery view here. So anyway, what I'll
few
do
slides,
is
and then I'm going to
Tracy,
answer some.
we just lost about the past 30 seconds or so.
Did you lose me?
Yeah. I think while she's bringing up the slides, I think that can happen, that the internet connection can go. So we'll wait.
I think I'm still frozen. Come back.
You are.
Can you see me now?
I can, yeah. I don't know
Okay.
if while you bring up the slides, it might freeze temporarily and then it'll come back on probably.
Yeah, let me just share my screen. I'm going to turn off my video for a second just to try to minimize the bandwidth. Can you hear me okay, Jody?
We sure can, yep.
Okay, great. So let's try this for a minute then, just to maximize the bandwidth. All right. So just briefly, by way of introduction, alluding to what I said earlier, at SAFM, we teach functional medicine and the interconnectedness of disease dynamics that promote suffering in a unique human being. And yes, it can be very complicated, and there's a lot of intimidating diagnoses and labels that we give to various states of dysfunction that our patients and clients struggle with. But I think there's real value in simplifying our lens on so often what is at play. It's of value to us as practitioners and coaches and other wellness professionals, so that we don't get overwhelmed in doing this work. But it's also really valuable to your clients so that they can not just be told what's broken, not just told what's awry in their body, but we can actually educate them using language they understand about what is at play in their body. We can inspire them with what's actually possible when they shift their choices, and then they can become empowered with tools and progress and community and ongoing accountability from you. Ultimately, I think that should be our mission, is to not just help people get well, but to help them stay well and become accountable and confident about their ability to maintain their own health. It's a different goal, for sure. But ultimately, all of these complicated dynamics are a result of a failure to maximize, minimize, and prioritize what their unique body needs at this point in time. And that can feel like an oversimplification, but it's actually well held out once you start digging into the science of all the different things people can struggle with. Ultimately, people need to maximize what they uniquely need. Women who are struggling with various types of, say, estrogen dominance, right, where they have excessive estrogenic effects. Let's just pick that as one example. They have really debilitating PMS and long menstrual bleeding with heavy blood loss and maybe headache and serious fatigue and anxiety. We need to make sure that we're maximizing what they need in order to counter that dynamic. And certainly we need things such as specific vitamins in order to promote methylation of estrogens. In the degradation of estrogens, we create hydroxyestrogen metabolites, which are actually still quite estrogenic. They're actually more carcinogenic as well. And we need to methylate them in order to safely detoxify estrogen. Well, you have to have nutrients to do that. Nutrients are not optional. They run our biochemistry. And for various reasons, people can have inadequate nutrients to run methylation, right? If they don't eat sufficient vegetables like dark leafy greens, they may not get enough folate. If they choose a vegan diet, or if they have low stomach acid, if they take acid suppressing drugs like proton pump inhibitors, they may not properly digest and absorb vitamin B12. Or maybe they've been taking oral estrogen, like birth control pills, which, well, you don't have to use them very long before you start depleting your supplies of vitamin B6. Well, just those 3 vitamins right there that I quickly mentioned, inadequate levels of any 3 of those will impair methylation and render someone in a higher estrogenic state. This directly contributes to this aspect of hormone imbalance. On the other hand, we also have to minimize what's harmful for a unique person. And I think the category that most professionals miss when they're supporting people, and again, I'll just continue with the example of estrogen dominance, even if we are focused on supporting endogenous estrogen properly, right, and helping people to eat a healthy diet and get plenty of nutrients, if we're not focused on the endocrine disrupting effects of chemicals, then they can still have estrogen dominance, right? People can have no issues with endogenous human estrogens at all. Good levels of synthesis, good levels of metabolism, but there are so many endocrine disrupting chemicals that can have a negative impact on a variety of hormones, but having excessive estrogenic impact is a common negative effect of these chemicals. And these are not measurable in terms of our hormone levels. And they can either mimic a hormone like estrogen by fitting in receptors. They can interfere with the enzymes that degrade and metabolize estrogens. They can affect the behavior of receptors for steroid receptors that actually trigger estrogenic effects. And these are things that people encounter every day, whether it's ingredients in the sunscreen they slather on, or preservatives in the makeup that they put on their face, or hair coloring. Jody, you could chime in here any point if you want. I know you're really passionate about this category. Like BPA, the people get from cash register receipts and can linings. This is a major cause of hormone imbalance today, and it's as a result of toxicity.
Yeah, I mean, I was really shocked when I took your toxicity class and learned about this, and that, the average baby is born with 260 toxins in their in the umbilical cord blood and in their fat. It is crazy what's, why all the hormone mediated cancer we're having now. And I think it's well explained by the toxicity, and, obviously there's other contributing factors, but just what I learned from that really was life-saving for me, because I was loaded with toxins. I had all kinds of heavy metal toxicity and estrogen dominance. I had a whole bunch of issues with toxicity for sure.
To ask a follow-up question right here, yes, BPA is commonly put on the back of cash register receipts in order to keep the roll of receipt paper from sticking to itself. That may also be in some paper products as well, like paper towels and this type of thing. You'd be shocked to find out how often these types of plastics are used for various purposes. But if you think about it, if you have a sweaty palm and you're grabbing a cash register receipt and or a wet palm because you've been picking up fresh vegetables at the grocery store, and you grab a hold of that receipt with your car keys, and then you walk outside and you're gripping the receipt, trying to hold on to all your bags and stuff, you're creating a fairly perfect environment to absorb these things into systemic circulation. These are the types of things that we don't necessarily think about, that your clients don't think about. But what a powerful workshop topic. These types of things, you think you're shocked. The kinds of things that your clients are doing and are not aware of how it might be contributing to what is at play in their bodies is a powerful tool for setting yourself apart as a health coach.
And I love that SAFM, you can even facilitate getting lab work on this for your clients, and they can see the toxicity in their bloodstream. It's crazy. And that's one of the things I did, is tested myself. And then some of my clients, we test as well, because it's really mind blowing to see what comes out in these environmental toxins and in these metals and everything else.
Yeah, it's a huge win for sure, Jody, though now, at least in the US, I should say, now the widespread availability where people can order their own testing, right? They can, pay for their own testing in order to learn what they want to about their bodies and to explore some of these dynamics. But we know that the average person we're supporting is not optimizing their nutrients, right? They're eating a lot of what I call crap food. They're not minimizing toxins. They're kind of having the quote unquote normal life that people in their culture are, which is really toxic laden. But I think one of the most prevalent toxins is actually chronic stress. And even from a biochemical viewpoint, when we are stressed out, the metabolism of stress hormones uses the same methylation pathway that dealing with estrogens does. So if a person is having a lot of stress, at the same time, they're going to have less enzymes available for metabolizing their estrogens. So there is a biochemical reason why a person can be going along. They have a really stressful period of time, and then their hormones go haywire. Yes, they do go haywire because there's a biochemical competitive increase from all of the stress. This is not their imagination. This is scientifically logical. And so these are the types of things that we can become expert at and really well educate people. The thing that I have most learned in the past 15, 16 years at this point that I've been passionate about and actively using functional medicine is the power to educate people about what is actually at play in their lives, and doing it with stories and analogies and language that they can understand. It is incredibly powerful because if people are just told what to do, if they're given a prescription, if they're given a plan, go do these things, it'll help you, they will often be what the medical world calls compliant for a period of time because they're suffering. But as they start to feel a little bit better, people stop being compliant because they don't understand why the plan they've been given is necessary or important. They are sort of an arm's length participant in their own healthcare. But you can have a really savvy clinical partnership with your clients. And by teaching them what is at play, so they actually have an aha experience, it's incredibly powerful for them to think, okay, wow, I had no idea that that's actually what's causing my symptoms, my suffering. Wow, that makes so much sense. Once they feel that, they can't unknow it. They can't unlearn that truth about their body. And so, as you educate them, they can become much more galvanized to stay with you in your programs, to continue to work with you, because you've given them information that they didn't know before. You're a breath of fresh air. You're honoring them as an equal in the clinical encounter. And this makes all the difference in the world about whether they hang out with you long enough in order to actually get really transformative results. But we can educate people about the power of crap food, right? What do we see here? Lots of calories, lots of marketing for sure. It's a lot of expensive marketing, a lot of colors, a lot of packaging, but you're also looking at a ton of chemicals. Lots of sugar, lots of highly refined vegetable oil, lots of refined wheat flour, and we could talk all day about the impact of those things on our hormones, right? Many of you are asking questions and you have a passion for sex hormones, but sex hormones are not separate from stress hormones or metabolic hormones. And a major driver for sex hormone imbalance is metabolic hormone imbalance, right? People consume lots of sugar and refined flours and then pro-inflammatory oils. It's a perfect recipe over time for creating insulin resistance. And the initial stages of insulin resistance involves high levels of insulin, which people may have for many years, way before they start to show what is often the first acknowledgement in the medical community, which is increased blood sugar and pre-diabetes. Research shows that the average person has been actively experiencing metabolic dysfunction as an adult for 13 years before they're diagnosed. And so how powerful of an opportunity you have to intervene while they're suffering, but the blood sugar dynamics are not severe enough to be diagnosable. Why would we wait for dysfunction to happen for over a decade before we acknowledge it and engage early on in order to stop this type of dynamic from happening? And so food matters, as we all know, in a huge way, but insulin is a hormone and has a huge impact during that initial stage of metabolic dysfunction, which often is the longest one. Women or men, but especially women from a sex hormone viewpoint, can struggle with hyperinsulinemia. And then that affects their sex hormone imbalance, right? High levels of insulin promote increased levels of testosterone and other androgens in women. And this can set them up for PCOS type of dynamics, right? Where they don't ovulate, so they don't make progesterone. And then they have estrogen dominance and they have infertility. And the roots of that are in the diet. The roots of that are in insulin imbalances. Not every time, but it's really quite commonplace. And I know you see this in your practice all the time too, Jody.
Yeah, not only in my practice, but honestly, myself. I mean, I was getting facial hair as a teenager and things like that, that, that are common, but not normal. And I was terribly estrogen dominant. And by the same token, you can have really heavy periods too, it could go either extreme. But one of my clients, I remember, had such estrogen dominance, and we did a hormone test. We facilitated getting a hormone test, and I've never seen such high estrogens in my life. I mean, she's a young mom with 3 kids. She could not function because of the estrogen dominance. Her anxiety was off the charts, and maybe you could explain a little about the connection there, but she couldn't function. And once we were able to facilitate some interventions with her that I learned at SAFM, what to do when somebody's estrogen dominant. She's like a new person. I mean, she wrote me the most beautiful testimonial, just telling me how, it's changed her life. She feels so much at peace and she feels so much better. And, all the estrogen dominant symptoms went away, weight loss, all these good things happened after.
Yeah, and that is not rare. I just want to say here for a minute, I really appreciate that Jody is awesome. Jody is an amazing health coach, and it can be so easy for people to think, well, that's Jody, right? She can do anything. But I'm going to step in here and tell you, yes, Jody has a wildly successful health coaching practice. She is not the only person who has a wildly successful health coaching practice, right? There are many wildly successful health coaches, and she is not unusual. While we all know and love her, right? And she helps to so many health coaches in the community. These are straightforward interventions that you can really learn to master, right? Being able to help people with this level of impact is not rare. It's just not. And it points for me to the necessity of us doing this work, because it's just a matter of getting at the roots for a unique individual, right? And this is where kind of knowing the basics is not enough, because not everyone needs the same help for their case of estrogen dominance, right? For some people, it's this, type of anovulatory dynamic where they may not actually have high estrogen at all. They may not have issues with toxins, like I mentioned earlier, in terms of endocrine disrupting chemicals. Their own estrogen metabolism may be perfect. It may be optimal. They may have no problems with methylation. Instead, their challenge may just be that they don't have enough progesterone to balance out their healthy estrogen levels. And a discrepancy in the two hormones together can create a net estrogen dominant state. This is where progesterone matters. It's why a lot of women, as they go into perimenopause, start experiencing estrogen dominance for the first time in their lives. And they're thinking, what happened to me? I didn't change anything. My diet's the same. My stress is the same. My exercise is the same. Why do I now have PMS symptoms? Why do I now have heavier menstrual bleeding?
Why am I getting this belly, right?
Why am I getting this belly? Why do I have these headaches? All of these things. And it's because in perimenopause, the level of progesterone synthesized begins to drop way before the level of estrogen changes, years before the level of estrogen changes. And so you could be going along, right, through your 20s and 30s, and you have good balance, and maybe you don't have any PMS at all. You have nice, moderate menstrual bleeding. You have a good hormonal experience, and suddenly you're 42 and your periods are getting longer and longer and heavier, and your PMS is worse and worse, and you have a muffin top now. And what's happening behind the scenes is you've entered perimenopause and your estrogen has not budged. But here's your progesterone. Every year it's getting lower and lower. Behind the scenes, you are beginning to produce less progesterone. You're having anovulatory cycles and you don't know it, or you're ovulating, but you're producing less progesterone during that ovulation, right? Oh, by the way, just because a woman has a menstrual period does not mean she's ovulating. And so what's happening is the body in this phase of life is experiencing basically every, progressive change. And so there's a period of 5 to 10 years where your hormones are in fluctuation pretty much all the time, on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis. And it's a moving target. But many women think, oh, I must be losing a lot of estrogen quickly. That is possible. It is rare. Unless you are very thin and have low body fat and hypothyroidism. It's highly unlikely that your estrogen is rock bottom. Instead, what's happening is your progesterone is trucking down, and you could be experiencing some estrogen dominant symptoms as a result of that relative imbalance between progesterone and estrogen. And, there's other dynamics that happen with that I want to talk about in a second, right? Part of this transition makes women more vulnerable to histamine overload, makes women more vulnerable to immune hypervigilance and autoimmune disease. This is because of the relative discrepancy between the hormones.
Yeah, we see that. I see that in my practice when perimenopause and menopausal women that all of a sudden are having hives all over their body, or they're having their seasonal allergies, but they never had them before because of that histamine dynamic. And it's really interesting to see that the interconnectedness with that. But can I mention one thing, Tracy? I just want to
Yeah, go for
say,
it.
you had mentioned, okay, I'm a successful coach. And yes, I am. And I have to pinch myself sometimes because I can't believe the level of success I've had with this. And I just started 8 years ago just became a health coach. And I will tell you, I really thought I knew a lot going into being a health coach because I had an autoimmune disease and I was almost symptom free with it. And I'm like, I know so much. I listen to podcasts, I read books, I know what I'm doing. And then my very first client, I was so over my head. It was ridiculous. So like she had like fibromyalgia, chronic diarrhea, like type 2 diabetes, like a rash all over her skin. I was like, oh my gosh. And food alone was not doing it. And when I started at SAFM, I met all these other really successful health coaches. And I'm like, how do you do it? How do you know all this stuff? How do you, I was just blown away by their level of knowledge. And I was thinking I could never do this. And by the way, they were charging a fair amount for their services. And I was like, I could never charge that much. I'm like, that's
Which
just
is
like,
hilarious in retrospect.
yeah, in retrospect, it's hilarious because I do charge a lot. I do slide my scale for people who need it, but I can take on high end clients, and this is very lucrative for me now. But I will say I was just like, I can't do any of that, and they're just like, just go through the school, learn this stuff, and you'll see. And as you're learning it, you implement it in your practice as you're going. So even after the first class, I had some data to be able to help people. But before I was even done with my first semester, I was taking on these really complex clients and feeling confident that I could help them because there's resources in the school where you can look things up and figure things out like this. I know we're getting off topic a little, but this treasure chest is like the best thing. I use it almost every day where, let's say I have a client with psoriasis and I want to look up psoriasis. I can look it up and find questions that students have asked previously and get data on what to do. And it just saves me so much time instead of trying to Google and getting some false information and God knows what kind of studies and trying to read these studies and make sense of them all. Tracy has done tens of thousands of hours of research already for you and it curated and given you the best links and the best knowledge. And she's had, a dozen years of practice, maybe more in her own practice, probably a lot more. And she takes all her knowledge and all her research and everything and puts it together into this school. And then she's constantly updating it. So people entering the school now are going to get so much more information and education than I ever got. SAFM, Ariel's asking, is the School of Applied Functional Medicine. And Tracy is the lead educator and founder of the school. And it was just a small group of us health coaches when it started many years ago. And it's blown up to a lot of medical professionals. Most of the students, in fact, about 80%, I think, are medical professionals now. Mm-hmm. But we do take in health coaches, which especially those are really exclusively those who have already worked with about at least eight clients, and probably, within the last year, because you can't just be new and come into the school. You'll be over your head because you want to start using it in your practice and you have to have clients to use it on. So by the end of my first semester, I was able to quit my part-time job, start doing this full time, and have clients that were just telling everybody about me. It was like they were in the line in the grocery store, handing out my card to people. I mean, I have people coming to me, like I just had one this week and I said, "Oh, you're local. How'd you hear about me?" She said, "Oh, this mothers group in this town I live in was telling me like they have 4 people in that group that are all just raving about you." And I'm like, okay, new client, easy sell. I mean, amazing.
Yeah.
So sorry.
No, don't apologize, because it's true. This is not some fantastical myth, right? If you wildly satisfy clients that you work with, they will do literally the vast majority of your marketing for you, because it's human nature. If we achieve amazing breakthrough results, we want to tell people, we want to shout from the rooftops. We want to give back, right? The spirit of reciprocity. We want to share. And so, they tell their family, their friends, their coworkers, and then, the mothers group, the running club, their coworkers, people they hang out with. I mean, and then you end up getting a ton of qualified referrals. for people who actually know how you work, and are eager to get started, right? But you don't want to spend long term, 80% of your time trying to find clients, right? Just, suffering and struggling. Most of us don't have, sales or marketing as an expertise in our background, right? We want to do the work. We want to help people. We want to spend time with individuals or with groups. We want to make a difference. And so it's really powerful to be capable and confident of actually helping people to have amazing results as a result of working with you. And then, yeah, they're going to tell people. And there's really nothing quite so spectacular as getting to the point where you have a waiting list. And that's also not a far-fetched possibility. And you create a waiting list, right? There's all sorts of self-care and business guidance that we talk about in our student community at SAFM, right? You don't just keep loading and loading and loading yourself up and wearing yourself out. That's part of boundaries and respect for yourself. And when you need to create a waiting list, you do. And people generally are happy to be on your waiting list. They can't wait till it's their turn, and they're so excited and they talk about you. And this is a really blessed, glorious place to be in your practice, because it allows you to actually step into your calling, to have an amazing impact on people's long-term health and vitality. There is nothing quite so wonderful as that feeling. We're not changing people's lives. They're changing their lives, right? But they're doing it as a result of their partnership with you. And that is what an awful lot of us feel that restlessness for, right? It's why you went to health coaching school in the first place, right?
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, Ankita, hi, Ankita. I think I talked to you a long time ago when you signed up for the school, but she says, I'm in level 2 SAFM and I can't agree more with Jody. It's the best decision of my life. And I feel that way too. Like
Oh, lovely.
professionally,
Thank
it's the
you.
best
That's
thing
very
I've ever
sweet.
done.
Thank you so much for saying
It's
that.
and in terms of investment, I know it and then please go back to the hormones talk, but I just want to
Sure.
say, like, you will be able to charge more for your services. You'll get more clients. And I was able to pay off the school within my first semester, just in terms of volume and increase of people that were coming to me. So just know that it's definitely worth the investment. And I will say, just for my own health, I'm in full remission for my autoimmune disease. I have no more brain fog. I feel more energy now and better than I did when I was 25. I'm going to be 60 in like a year and a half. And I can't even believe how wonderful I feel. And that alone was worth the price of admission. But what I've done for my clients and how much it's changed my life. It's just, I can't even say enough about it. But anyway, let's get back to hormones. I'm
Awesome.
sorry
Thank you,
to
Jody.
derail
That's
this a
great.
little.
I really
Yeah.
appreciate your
No, you
sharing.
deserve it, man. Tracy, you're just amazing.
So let's see. I'm conscious of the time always, because I know, especially with your enthusiasm, we could just keep talking and sharing case examples and things for hours and hours. But I really want to answer some questions here. And I just want to pull up a few random slides here to answer some of the questions that were raised. Let's talk for a minute about this whole notion of what I call estrogen dominance. Now, I think it's really important that we don't toss around phrases without really explaining what we mean by them, right? Because otherwise, our clients can develop the highly inappropriate perception that somehow estrogen is bad or evil or a negative thing. And of course, it's not at all. We need estrogen. And where this goes back to what I was talking about, as far as individuals may struggle with this excessive estrogenic effects, right? It's probably a more accurate phrase, right? But it's complicated and it's hard to say. And estrogen dominance is something that's easy for people to remember. But one of the reasons that this can take place is because there's poor estrogen detoxification and clearance in a unique person. Now, the reality is very few women have ovaries gone wild, just overproducing estrogen. That is a giant myth. That is not true at all. That is just not common. Can there absolutely be sort of pathological dynamics where that can happen? sure, but it's really quite rare. Instead, women can end up with excessive estrogenic effects because they have impairment or blockage at different states of estrogen activation, or then the breakdown of that estrogen, because hormone metabolites still have hormonal effects, right? So, and we don't have estrogen and then sort of dissolve it and it's not there. It's not that simple at all. We have different human estrogens, and they are progressively degraded via specific pathways that you can really learn to confidently work with. And so it's not just about making the hormone, right? It is about actually getting that estrogen into what are called steroid receptors, right? And it's the activation of that receptor that causes hormonal effects. Well, sometimes people are making lifestyle choices that either help their hormone balance or further impair their hormone balance, right? If women are struggling with excessive estrogenic effects, then caffeine can really be something counterproductive for them, because it's upregulating estrogen receptors. It's not changing the level of estrogens. It's making them stronger in terms of their net estrogenic effect. Like we're talking about before, they can go through perimenopause. They can actually have a PCOS type of dynamic, maybe associated with insulin resistance, and then they have inadequate progesterone. Again, their estrogen level is the same. It may be optimal, but this imbalance can create a greater impact, right? Alcohol also increasing estrogenic effect. So these are things that have nothing to do with the aggregate level of the hormone themselves from a synthesis viewpoint, but affects what happens downstream. But these are all common drivers that, you can, at SAFM, right? By the time people are finished with their first semester, everybody's well familiar with these and they roll off their tongue. And you don't want what's actually happening commonly in the people you serve to feel overwhelming, or like it's Greek to you, or wow, it's just too complicated. That's not going to help you to build your confidence with your clients. It's not going to help you to market yourself effectively. You want to be truly capable and confident. And so I like, Jody just going further back than she did, right? Certainly when I was a health coach, 15 years ago, we certainly were helping people in our practice, right? I was working with others, but we weren't getting anywhere near the results that I wanted to, that I knew was my calling, that I was passionate about doing. I know I needed more knowledge. And I took advantage of a number of different functional medicine training programs, and I learned a lot of science, but I did not learn how to apply that science from a clinical know-how perspective. I didn't get this big, rich toolbox. And so this is what Jody said, threw me into, at this point, multiple tens of thousands of hours of research. And we created SAFM because of what was not out there in functional medicine education before SAFM. Because it's not enough to know the science. You need to be able to apply the science in the context of a unique client. And that does not have to be overwhelming. You have to get lots of case practice so you have confidence about what you're actually doing. And you want to be able to practice on cases in the context of a learning environment, right? So you can learn from others, you can get guidance, so that you can really be confident in working with the people in your practice. But some questions that were raised here related to this. This is a great example of how what happens in the gut affects what is happening in so many different body systems, right? In some cases, our ability to balance hormones is affected by the microbiome in the gut. And there was a question asked about elevated levels of beta-glucuronidase. This is a more advanced concept, but once you learn about hormone dynamics, you can get to the point where this is not overwhelming at all. It's just straightforward. You can have an overgrowth of certain microbes in your gut, like E. coli, right? Good commensal E. coli produces this enzyme as part of its normal metabolic functioning. You need that to actually help degrade your food and isolate nutrients. But if you have a relative imbalance and an excessive level of beta-glucuronidase in your gut produced by your microbial friends, this can actually keep you from clearing via the stool metabolites of estrogen. And so you keep recycling and reabsorbing those estrogen metabolites. And that can be a key contributor to estrogen dominance. And if that is at play in a unique individual, we have to address it, right? So I want to speak to the individual who asked that question. They were talking about using probiotics for that, which I think can be a helpful strategy. But I have always had the best success by actually combining the use of a supplement called calcium D-glucarate, which actually will bind with the beta-glucuronidase and reduce the levels in the intestines. So that's something that can be supplemented with in order to help sex hormone balance. It's a fascinating example of the interconnectedness through the functional medicine lens that goes beyond this separation or silos of different physiological systems. But probiotics can help. Sometimes people benefit from antimicrobial herbs in order to help to just rebalance the bacterial species and our microbiome to better ensure balance and just reduce the amount of calcium D-glucarate. It's just a good example of helping a unique individual. A question that was asked, I want to highlight here, a question that was asked about some of the things that can show up in perimenopause, especially as it progresses. And I totally understand this may apply to some of you as well. Jody and I've joked about this multiple times in the past. You feel like, what is happening to my body? Because behind the scenes, things are shifting. But one of the disease dynamics that's creating symptoms in the people we serve is histamine overload. And histamine, we think about that as something associated with immune function. And most often when we talk about histamine, most people are thinking about nasal respiratory congestion, this type of thing. But excessive histamine can contribute to all sorts of symptoms, whether it is anxiety, a major driver of anxiety or even panic in perimenopause or early menopause, to headache, to insomnia. When we sleep overnight, there's an interesting hormone shift that happens, right? If we have good darkness while we sleep, and in particular, good darkness in the hour or so before bedtime, right? Where we turn down the lights and we're practicing good sleep hygiene, the body will begin to make higher and higher levels of melatonin. And simultaneously, we'll begin to have lower and lower levels of cortisol, our primary stress hormone, right? Overnight, when cortisol hits its lowest levels, this allows us to have high levels of histamine in the middle of the night. And for many people, that lowest level of cortisol is kind of in the wee hours of the night, right? 1, 2 a.m. in the morning. Well, when when cortisol is low, histamine surges, and histamine promotes wakefulness. And this is one of the reasons why women going through perimenopause are starting to acquire this strange awakening, right? This wakefulness in the middle of the night, or maybe from about 2 a.m. forward, they have trouble staying asleep. Now, if they had alcohol the evening before, that could be waking them up for a different reason, right? You can learn these things so that you can be a sleuth. You can be a detective. You can actually put together the puzzle pieces of, okay, given what the lifestyle choices are for this unique person, what is actually most likely driving their suffering? And you can ask them, given what you've shared, I can see how some certain physiological dynamics might be causing what you are struggling with. Would you like to learn more about those? And if they agree, it's an invitation to begin to educate them, right? To begin to be aware of some of the things that might be at play, so that with that education, they can open up their awareness to making other lifestyle choices, right? In your particular modality, we're coaching. It's their choice. Of course, we're not going to rush into their lives and change their lifestyle choices, right? They're going to do that themselves because they want to, but they need education to be inspired about what's possible. And the average person has no idea how their 2 or 3 cups of coffee a day might be affecting their sex hormones, or how their couple of glasses of red wine might be causing sex hormone imbalance, or how come when I was 35, my red wine didn't matter and I was actually told it was healthy for me. Now I'm having red wine and my sleep is really crappy. And I wake up and I'm all congested and mucousy. There's really logical reasons for that you can educate your clients about, and really develop their respect and strong rapport, their trust, their confidence. They love working with you because in partnership with you, they understand things about their unique body that they never had access to before, right? And I'm just talking about a tiny tip of the iceberg here in terms of the things that that you can learn and that you can confidently share. I want to share this real quick, Jody. Yeah, feel free to jump in. I'm
No,
going
I
to
was
pick a
just going to
different slide.
say, I remember learning about the histamine connection with progesterone in the middle of the night. And I was like, well, that explains why every night in the middle of the night, I would break out in hives and I scratch myself till I bled, like in the wee hours of the night. And like, why is this happening every night? And I was like, well, now it makes sense why it happened, but it was really interesting.
Absolutely.
Connectedness. Yeah.
Absolutely. And when we know how the puzzle pieces fit together, and especially something like histamine, right? Histamine is not an evil toxic substance. That's true of most things. Cholesterol, estrogen, all of these things, we need them, but we can end up with an imbalance in a unique person, right? And we can identify that imbalance, but your clinical success, your business success, your personal satisfaction and deep delight and fulfillment hinges on your ability to understand what is at play and to be able to teach clients about how to actually address it. Right? It's not enough to know what's at play. You've got to know actually what can be effective in addressing it, so that you can provide that education for the people that you're supporting.
Absolutely.
I know we're going to run out of time, but I really need to. I could talk about so many things. I want to talk about the thyroid for at least a minute, right? Because I know there were some questions about that. Let's see here. There are so many misconceptions and missteps in the world of the thyroid, right? But I just wanted to say a word here about the number of people who are using thyroid medication, which in the conventional world is almost exclusively T4 only medication. For some people, it does work because their particular type of thyroid hormone imbalance, right? There's types of insulin imbalance, there's types of estrogen imbalance, there's types of histamine imbalance. Well, there's types of thyroid imbalance as well. And some people have insufficient levels of T4, and when they get that medication support, they may get relief. That's great. But there's also a large complement of people that have been suffering for decades, even using thyroid hormone. It's not working for them because it's not addressing the particular imbalance that they have in the world of hypothyroid function.
Tracy, there's a couple blocks on the slide. I don't know if you can see that. I don't know if there's any way to remove those.
Let's see. I don't think I can remove the one at the, hold on a second. Let me unshare. Sometimes if I unshare and reshare, it takes care of it.
Okay, great.
Is that better?
It's a little better. Yeah, we can see a little better now. That's okay.
Okay. So the truth is that T4 itself has very little impact on thyroid receptors. What we need is T3. And some people have an imbalance where they're not well converting T4 thyroid hormone to T3. And in that case, no amount of T4 is going to help them. In fact, excessive T4 is going to make it worse and probably just give them heart palpitations and elevated, maybe elevated blood pressure, but it's not actually addressing the systemic problem with poor T4 to T3 conversion. But when people have hypothyroidism that is not being well treated or addressed, it reduces the basal metabolic rate, or think about it as the gas pedal, in nearly every cell in their body. And so we associate certain symptoms with hypothyroidism, and we think about it as, sluggish weight loss and maybe sluggish GI motility that promotes constipation or maybe distension or bloating. But we don't think about hypothyroidism, that metabolic sluggishness, promoting infertility, which it does, or promoting depression, which it does, or promoting cardiovascular disease because of elevated LDL cholesterol, which it does, right? And a ton of women have elevated LDL cholesterol, not because of blood sugar issues, not because of stress issues, but because of hypothyroidism, right? If you want to get at the root causes, they don't need a statin drug. They need someone to help them get at the roots of their unique case of hypothyroidism so that the liver takes up more of the LDL instead of leaving it in the blood where it can wreak havoc on the arteries. This is about actually looking through the lens of functional medicine and asking, who is this unique person? For a lot of people, the hypothyroidism comes first, and hypothyroidism in the liver impairs our ability to metabolize alcohol. It impairs our ability to deal with blood sugar. And so downstream from that, we get greater fatty infiltration in the liver, and that promotes insulin resistance. This is about the step-by-step chain of causality in a unique individual. A lot of cases of hypothyroidism are also autoimmune. And so again, if someone is looking to get well and stay well, they have to get at the roots of their particular case. And the roots of that autoimmune thyroid dysfunction typically lie in the gut and in the immune system. And so this is just a great example of interconnectedness. There's all sorts of missteps that happen in the realm of thyroid function, right? There's still too many people who know they're suffering. They've done their own research. They can see, I have 9 symptoms of hypothyroid function, but because their practitioner is only measuring TSH and their TSH is fine, they've been told they don't have a thyroid issue. And TSH is a brain hormone, and on its own, it cannot thoroughly assess thyroid health at all. We have to cast a broader net in order to understand what is actually at play in a unique particular case. And so we don't have time in this platform to really go through these, but I wanted to introduce this because one of the things that we want to give to all of the folks who register for this session that Jody mentioned is a session on maximizing your clinical impact on thyroid dysfunction. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time here because we're going to give you an hour-long dive into some of these dynamics, right? Where you can learn quite a bit about supporting individuals. But I really just appreciate the opportunity to even just sort of touch the surface of some of these dynamics, because when we think about what is causing suffering, right? What is the sort of endpoint of the suffering? If you go just a little bit upstream from that, you will often find hormone imbalance. Now, hormone imbalance is not the original root cause. We will often go upstream from the hormone imbalance and find issues with the immune system. We'll find issues with the digestive system. We'll find issues with metabolic function. We'll find issues with detoxification. And if we go upstream from that, we find life choices, right? Life circumstances, lifestyle choices. And truthfully, if we go even upstream from that, we find normal behaviors in our societies and our cultures and our communities. So often people are suffering because they're just being normal. Because unfortunately, it's a reality in many of our communities that crap food, toxins, and stress is the normal. And people try to be normal. It's way less stressful to just be normal, right? You don't have to think too much, you fit in. When people learn that to get well and stay well, they need to be making different choices. It's logical to all of us, I know, especially as coaches, that's really intimidating. They're not sure how to be a healthy deviant. They're not sure how to make abnormal daily choices. They're a little overwhelmed and they're not sure what the options are. If we want people to eat different food, to eat healthier diets, it's not enough to just tell them to do it. They've got to be able to find the food, purchase the food, prepare the food, enjoy the food, introduce it to their families in a way that's sustainable. This is where you and your toolbox and your engagement with them is everything, because the direction, the intervention is not enough. It never has been. And even again, if people are suffering, they may do it, even though it's complicated and stressful for a period of time. But if we want to help someone get well and stay well, they got to find a way in partnership with you, maybe connecting with others in your client community to find ongoing ideas, find ongoing empowerment. They need to be able to say, okay, well, here's what my day looks like. How do I fit this in? Where am I going to be able to do this? And you think, no problem, I got you. I got lots of creative ideas. This is where coaching really shines. They're asking you for support in a particular arena. And so you have the invitation to share with them the resources, the options, the alternatives, so that they can choose what resonates with them. This is where having this greater capability and confidence through the functional medicine lens makes a massive difference in how you show up in doing this work and the level of impact you're able to have.
Absolutely. I will say also, like, just as a health coach, like, the taking care of the dietary choices and helping them with sleep and helping them with stress, that's going to solve about 60% of their problems, I would say, or 60%. But, there's that 40% of things that the devil is really in the detail. And that's where I was missing out. I felt over my head with, autoimmune and hormones and just everything, allergies, asthma, all these things, anxiety, like, what do I do with these? And the food alone was not making a difference. And some of the lifestyle choices were not. So yeah, it understanding and having a deep, rich understanding of not just the knowledge of it, but how to successfully use it in your practice is really where the rubber hits the road. And that's why I can't rave enough about this program. And I hope I see a lot of you there. We have retreats every year. I'll get to meet you all. It's so fun. But I honestly feel like I have a superpower and I'm not alone. I know that there's a lot of love on the chat thread of SAFM. Heather was saying she had extreme eczema and now she doesn't. Yay. But she's a student as well. And you all, I will stay on for anybody who's interested in asking questions here on the live stream, on the in the group here. And if Tracy has to go, so I'm happy to stay on. But I just want to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for coming on today and giving people a taste of answering some of these questions about hormones, because you need to master a lot about hormones because they're messengers, right? They control a lot. And if you don't really get it, you're missing out on so much in terms of being able to really help your clients on a completely different level.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jody. I appreciate that. It's why, we teach a whole entire class, right, on adrenal and thyroid hormones, and a whole entire class on metabolic hormones, right? And, a class is 8 to 9 hours of webinar, right? It's not a toe dip. I don't believe in toe dip education. I think that gives people a false sense of security. But deep down, you're not confident at all, right? We call that imposter syndrome, with people getting kind of, well, I got a certificate, or I got some credits, or I have a credential. I'm way more interested in, are you capable and are you confident? And so I'm not a fan of toe dip education, because I don't think it helps you. I don't think it helps the people that you serve. I'm a big believer in presenting all the information and all the case practice you need to really be able to do the work. And so we have a huge focus on the hormone space, but also the other ones that are associated with it, right? The gut detoxification, the immune system, this type of thing. I do want to share real quickly, though, Jody, I think you may have mentioned it at the beginning, but I just don't want to miss it, because I think it's a fun thing. And I love giveaways. So one of the things that we do a few times a year is hold advanced practice workshops, usually on a Saturday. These are awesome. They're live, interactive, virtual workshops. And so we're going to give 5 of the folks who register for this session a free ticket to the next advanced practice workshop, which is in 2 weeks, January 28th. They're so fun. If you need continuing education credits for your health coaching certification, for example, or the medical practitioners can get them for CMEs as well, right? Everything we offer is accredited.
Yeah, we can't see the slide, Tracy, so maybe take it down. It's blocks all over it. I don't know what's going on. Oh, there it goes. That's a little better. Can see now.
That's so interesting. I don't know why that's happening.
Yeah.
But anyway, I just wanted to let folks know you may win one of these because it's a great opportunity to really get a deep dive into functional medicine and see what it's like, and interact with colleagues and see what's at play. But yeah, if folks are inspired, certainly there's an opportunity to check out our program in order to and I know that Jody will post a link here so folks can click, right? I'm just sharing a slide, but you can go to our website and learn more about the program. You can talk to a student in order to learn from their experience. And we have early bird tuition that is available until February 1st, right? Folks can save $2,000 on tuition, which is a big savings. So we like to encourage folks to enroll early. So,
I want to just say, with anyone who's already registered, you're already going to get the replay. You'll get the free class. If you're not registered and you're watching this on Facebook, click the link below and register, even if you're watching the replay, because you'll get the chance to win. You'll get, unless that's passed, but you'll also get the thyroid class. So make sure you do that. And just so you all know, yeah, you have until the end, or actually till February 1st to save $2,000. So that's not a huge window right now. So if you're interested in the school, you can apply. It's a $50 application fee, and you'll lock in the $2,000 savings. If you get in, then you sign up by a certain date. If you have an active practice and you've worked with at least 8 clients in the last year, you probably will qualify, but definitely take the thyroid class. So you get a taste of what Tracy's like, for sure. And I want to just say, there are recorded classes, and there's transcripts, and there's, audio. So different ways to learn. But there's also live classes. And this is where the school so shines. I mean, like I can present a case study, or one of my classmates will present a case study, and we go through it together. Tracy will tell you what she sees and what she thinks should be done. She'll challenge you to see where you see the interconnectedness. And it's a safe space to learn. You never feel like, even when you're a beginner at this, you're going to feel, like some level of, oh my gosh, am I getting this right? And she just encourages you to write down, it's okay if you're wrong. Let's just do this. And she teaches it in a way that makes it easy to understand and assimilate to your practice. So don't be nervous that she's got 3 degrees from MIT and, oh my gosh, how am I going to do all this? And maybe what she discussed today might be over your head. Through repetition, you're going to get this. And so just know that, I struggled in chemistry in school. It was my worst subject. And now I'm I can't believe what I
That's
know
true. I
now.
mean, that's a great example, right, Jody? You've always had passion for wellness, right? In terms
Mhm.
of like fitness. But you're a great example of someone where, you don't have a scientific background at all, right?
Mhm.
Just a passion for helping people and a can-do attitude and the learning, the sustainable learning so that you have recall of concepts and recall of options and alternatives is something that I believe anyone who's really committed can do this work, right? Repetition is really important. And you're going to get plenty of that at SAFM, that's for sure.
And if
But I
any,
just want to say thank you for the opportunity. Thank you so much. I hope everyone walks away today with inspiration to do this work, to build your practice, to really show up and have an impact. And there's so many coaches who are passionate and driven, but they're not showing up to do the work because they don't feel capable and confident. And to be honest, that breaks my heart because the world needs you massively, right? For every person, for every space in your schedule, there are thousands of people who would be delighted to get support from you, truthfully, right? I mean, let's just bust the myth of, there's no market for it. Wow, that is so not true. But you have to show up and be confident. You have to show up in a way that is client attractive. And so you got to get the support that you need to be able to be in that space because
absolutely,
the world needs you and there's plenty of demand.
definitely. Well, Tracy, thank you so much. I'm going to stay on for anybody who has additional questions about the school, about my experience. I'm happy to share. But thank you so much for joining us today. And, you know, uh, I'll see you in the classes. I'm always in there. I'm always listening to the updates. I'm always,
Okay, awesome. That's great. I really appreciate it. Can I leave the Zoom session and it'll be okay to leave you on?
yeah, it should be fine.
Okay, thank you
All right.
all. Have a good day.
All right, take care. And any of you have to get going, get going. If any of you have any questions about the school, I can just share my screen really quickly with you. I had another group that was asking about, and I put together this little presentation here, and I can just really quickly show you if anyone's interested. But this is the program if anybody is interested. Right here, you'll see there's these basic courses here, the anchoring essentials on the left, and then some deep dive clinical courses. So in the first semester, you're going to learn all about disease, how to break it down, and how to figure things out. You're going to learn how to map. I actually map each and every client, and it saves me so much time when I meet with the client again. I have the map put together, and it helps me draw the connections and what steps to take next. We learn puzzle piecing cases, which I'll explain a little more in a minute. We learn all about nutrition and supplements, and it's a deep dive. So if you don't know about supplements, you really shouldn't be recommending them. But as a health coach, you can definitely educate your clients about supplements and learn which brands and which doses and what's contraindicated and what works best. Tracy was talking about calcium D-glucarate, CGG. That's one of the supplements you learn about, which brand works best for that. So she actually names brand names and dosages and things like that. So you get really, and contraindications. So you really get a deep, rich knowledge of how to recommend supplements. And you can do it in the sense of just education to your level of comfort as a health coach. There's lab work. So you're going to get to learn a deep dive into how to read everyday annual physical lab work. And then we even learn functional lab work as well. And then there's a wonderful mind-body connection class. And then there's level 2 of everything in the second semester. It's all one program now, but there are 2 semesters. And you'll learn this level 2 of all these as well. But in the first semester, you're also going to learn all about disease begins in the gut. So much disease begins in the gut. You're going to understand how to help people with things like acid reflux and all kinds of gut issues that they have, diarrhea, constipation, all these things. And you're also going to learn the HPA-TG axis. This is that adrenal and thyroid where Tracy touched upon today. You also learn reversing metabolic dysfunction. This is how I help my clients reverse type 2 diabetes in an average of three or 4 months, complete reversal. And you'll also learn about other metabolic dysfunction as well. And then in the second semester, you're going to learn immune function, loss of tolerance, and hypervigilance. You're going to learn all about asthma, allergies, and autoimmune diseases. You'll learn mitochondrial function and cellular metabolism, so much about weight loss, so much about just any kind of cellular metabolism issues that your mitochondrial dysfunction that your clients might have. You also learn about toxicity, detoxification, and heavy metals. Oh, and this you also learn about viruses. I forgot to mention that, but and this I actually had horrible issues with mercury and other heavy metals that I was able to come out from under. And you'd be surprised how prevalent is, like Tracy said earlier. But I just wanted to mention that. And then there are other, I don't know if I can, the puzzle piece case I just want to mention where this is actually not the right exact slide, but the puzzle piecing cases are where Tracy actually, you get to hear her present a client from her own practice, and you get to listen to the intake. And I remember the first time I listened to an intake from Tracy, I said, oh my gosh, I've been doing the intake all wrong. Like the health history, what do you say? What do you do? And I couldn't believe how, organized it was, what she said, the questions she asked, how she organized the whole thing. And the client couldn't wait to go to the next session. It was like that used to be a problem with me. Like, are they ever going to sign up for a program with me if I do one session? And since then, it's like every single person signs up for a program with me. It's like, it's not even a question. It's like, we're just going to go ahead and sign up for the program. So, that's really helped me. And then, like I said, there's the classes where you actually get to, a fellow student will present a case study, and you get to, comment on it, ask questions, and get everything you need. Heather's saying she loves those classes. Does anyone have any questions, additional questions? I just want to show you a couple more things before we go, and you're welcome to leave, whatever, but I'll show you a couple, oops, wrong one. Hold on. This is actually from my own practice. I'll just show you a few success stories, but this was one of my first clients, I think I mentioned, that had all these health issues, and we were able to put them all into remission. She lost 20 pounds. I've done a lot of interviews with clients, but I work with some with vitiligo. That's the disease Michael Jackson had. And you can see this boy's knees were all depigmented. And after 5 months, his knees gained pigment, and he's in remission from his autoimmune disease. I know that's a tough one to overcome. This one had anxiety and panic. She couldn't even go to her classes in school. She couldn't even sleep in her own dorm room. And now it's all gone within just a few months. This woman had type 2 diabetes, hypertension, fatty liver, high cholesterol, and joint pain. And within 6 months, she reversed all those conditions. Her hemoglobin A1C went from 6.8 to 4.6. So she's no longer diabetic. And she lost 75 pounds in the process. But I could go on and on. This is asthma and allergies. This is ADHD. This is acid reflux. And some of my favorite cases are like things like psoriasis, where people have a really advanced case of psoriatic arthritis here. And you can see how he's completely reversed that. But I am telling you this to impress upon you how amazing this school is, and how you will have the confidence to be able to help people on a completely different level. Do whatever you can to join the school. If this is your first introduction to it, when I found out about it, I dove in, and I have never looked back. I just couldn't believe how much more I learned. And I think I said before, I thought I knew so much. And Tracy was saying things like you probably heard in this session that I had never heard before. And I'm like, well, why don't I know this stuff? And so now I'm able to help people on a completely different level. So any questions? Anybody have any additional questions? You can put them in the chat on Facebook. You're welcome to reach out to me. I'm Jody, Burwick Franklin on Facebook, and I'm happy to talk to any of you about it. I just am a true fan, and I'm wishing you all a very happy new year. Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope to see you in the school. Go ahead and apply and see what happens, and decide what you want to do, but hope to see you all in there. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a good night. Bye-bye.